Welcome to the Black Spaces Show. We are a sci-fi fantasy show that gives you Black STL perspectives. Many other shows will critique blockbuster shows and indie sci-fi films, but we give you the unique critique that none others will give you. And joining me on this fantastic voyage is none other than some of the brothers from the mother planet, the galactically gorgeous, galactically gorgeous brother Ulysses and brother Milton. How y'all doing?
Hey.
Hey there. Doing well, doing well.
And today we're going to be talking about the film Dune. And brother Milton has that Masonic halo over his head.
We are in no way affiliated with the Illuminati.
We're not with the Illuminati.
Okay.
Exactly.
Just to be clear. And brother Ulysses is literally a halo there. He is cut out a piece of heaven. All right.
I am the halo.
You are there. He is there. All right. So you can catch us on the Black Spaces YouTube channel or on a Facebook live near you. True for every show, we ask three big questions on this show. First question we ask is, what is the source? Like the Matrix. Did I say who I am? I'm Brother Todd. Okay. We'll edit that out. I'm Todd. So we're going to ask, what is the source? Then, we're not going to talk a lot about the books or the original source material, but we're going to give some heads up about it because it's important to do that. Then we're going to ask, well, now, is it good sci-fi? Is it good sci-fi about, these various films? And then how are we represented? How well are we represented? All right. So again, we're talking about the adaptation to Frank Herbert's Dune, a classic Dune book from 1965 going forward. And as you know, this is the third adaptation or attempt at that epic sci-fi book. Frank Herbert's Dune was originally published as a somewhat like Isaac Asimov. It was published as a precursor series in the Analog magazine, and then it came together in the novel form. It tied for a win for the Hugo Award of 1966 and won the best award, the Nebula Award of that year, or the inaugural Nebula Award, I should say. And it has been called one of the classic, all-time classic sci-fi fiction novels. Frank Herbert published 5 novels in the series: the Dune Messiah, the Children of Dune, God Emperor of Dune, Heretics of Dune, Chapter House Dune, and then after his death in 1986, his son Brian Herbert and Kevin Anderson published more than a dozen Dune spin-off novels. And as you know, it is a classic story of the life and times of the House Atreides, particularly Paul Atreides. It's the galactic empire thousands of years into the future, where all machines, intelligence, I should say, all intelligence or thinking machines have been outlawed by what's called the Butlerian Jihad. And it tells the story of how House Atreides, by the Emperor Shaddam, the Padishah Emperor of House Corino. And I tell you, Frank Herbert just went deep into lore. I mean, in fact, if you read the original Dune novel, you will see that he he literally has a glossary in the back of the book. That's how deep he is into creating this lore. And so the House Atreides is charged by the Emperor to leave the planet Caladan and to take over the planet Arrakis, or Dune, as it's provincially called, that produces the oil, the greatest substance in the universe, the spice melange. The spice melange is necessary for the navigators of the Guild Society to be able to get a high to bend space. It's also necessary. They get one contact, a half and a hell and a half contact high from melange. Okay. And it's also necessary for the Bene Gesserit sisterhood to have their conscious and some minor degree of prescience awakened by using the spice, and the spice also extends life, many multiples. But of course, the big conflict is that House Atreides, as led by Duke Leto Atreides, is taking over the planet Arrakis, or Dune, where this is produced by virtue of the worms, or the big ass worms of Dune. And they are taking over this planet from House, I say House Harkonnen, because that's what I thought of the name as when I was a kid. House Harkonnen. They're mortal enemies, but that don't go too well. And it turns fateful when the Duke is killed, and the whole House Atreides is displanted and hunt almost into extinction, and he and his mother Jessica run into the arms of the desert freeman. But he is thought to already be a messiah, Muad'Dib, or the Lisan al-Gib by the Fremen. All right, that's my synopsis. What I leave out, brothers? What critical points did I leave out in my off the cuff, rough synopsis?
Let's see. None.
None. Okay.
You don't leave off any points. No.
There are other. That's kind of the overall wraparound story. It's like there's so many other stories going on at the same time that are, moving that plot along.
Right.
But for the most part, I think you pretty much covered it, sir.
I covered it. Okay. All right. Okay. Yes. All right. So let's get into our first big question after consider sources. Is this good science fiction? Is this good science fiction in your view? Ulysses, is this good science fiction? Whether we talk about credibility, story, plot, acting, dialogue, character, special effects, cinematography, soundtrack, is this good science fiction? Is D. Villeneuve's adaptation
okay.
Science fiction?
I need to be clear when I say this, that when I'm speaking about this movie, I'm speaking about, specifically this movie, not the book, not any previous movies,
right? Just
this movie. Is it good science fiction? Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. The story is, as you said, it's well developed, and just kind of laid out in a way that, because it has all of those elements, like you said, you're immersed in it, much like Star Wars and some other stories that just kind of draw you in, and things like the lexicon of all that is that within that universe, you have to pick up on it as you go along, because you're fully immersed, and it's not a lot of hand holding and explanation. I don't like that. I do like to be just kind of drawn in that way, and it does that. It does that. It's that is consistently done. Yeah. So
okay.
I say yes. Yes.
It's good science fiction. Okay. Brother Milton, what do you think? Is this good science fiction?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, this is the reason, you want to go to movies. And, I know this was released at the same time, in people's homes, on HBO Max and in the theaters, but I'm so glad I went to the theater to see this.
Me too. That's where I saw it.
The cinematography was good. I mean, the depth of the worlds, each of the planets they took us to. I mean, just great special effects. Todd gave us a great, recap and background. But the good thing about the movie is that I noticed how it focused on the central characters only. They didn't take us too far out into the Dune world.
Right.
They kind of kept us in House Atreides. We could understand, then the Harkonnens or whatever how it's pronounced, the other house. And then we knew there was some emperor somewhere.
Right.
So I kind of like how they kept that tight, so therefore, even if you had no background in this, you could kind of follow along. Mm-hmm. Now, granted, I would love to know why the emperor, doesn't like House Atreides.
I was wondering that too, and I read the book.
yeah, I would have loved to have known that, and I'm sure we'll dive into that. But just as a question of good sci-fi, absolutely, I loved it.
Okay. Yeah, you know what? To that point, Milton, I think, I think it's fantastic science fiction. I think it will stand the test of time as one of those great films in the 21st century science fiction, early 21st century science fiction, because it is so extremely well done, and it could not be done badly and have satisfied. I have yet to hear a really kind of critical acclaim about the art of the film. Now you can have a whole bunch of critical acclaim about the politics of the film, because that's linked to the politics of the narrative of the story itself from Frank Herbert. Even though he drew, he was masterful and brilliant in what he did with providing Dune. And by the way, Dune builds on foundation, and Star Wars builds from Dune, and da 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 da. So all of these classic films and stories built from each other. But yeah, I agree with you. I think now to the point about this plot line of why the Emperor would do them in like that. Why would the Emperor send his Sardaukar? Oh, I forgot to mention them. They're some bad mofos. Send the Sardaukar or give the Baron Harkonnen 2 legions or 3 legions of the Sardaukar in order to conspire and bring the House Atreides down, because the Sardaukar were really kind of camouflaged, if you will, as part of the Baron's forces. But if you notice, there's a couple of things. One, I forget the Reverend Mother of the Bene Gesserit. Is it Helen Moe? Helen? Yeah. Helen didn't play. She almost took out Paul. But Helen went to the Baron and said, "Listen, you can do whatever you want to do. Just do not mess with the boy, and don't mess with her, with Jessica, his mother, who was Bene Gesserit trained." And of course, she went against the Bene Gesserit because she had Paul. She was supposed to have a girl. She had a boy, and because she wanted to produce the Kizas Hadara, right, the one who could be present in all places. And so that was going to be the messianic figure that the Bene Gesserit had been breeding or trying to breed for thousands of years. This takes place like I've heard it said that this Dune is at least 30,000 years in the future, even though the year is 10,000 something in the year of the Emperor.
10,191?
Yes. Yeah. See, Ulysses has seen it more than once. So,
well, actually, that's how I said I wasn't going to talk about any other movies, but the original movie, the one I had fell in love with when I initially fell in love with the story, that's how it starts off.
Yeah, you're
letting
right.
you know what year it is.
Yeah, let you know what year it is, right? So, but you get the sense that there are a lot of forces conspiring and looking the other way, because the Emperor wants to divide and conquer. He wants to bring down House Atreides, which is getting too popular in the Landsraad, the Council of Nobles. They're getting too popular. They could challenge him by way of the Baron Harkonnen, who no one really I don't get the sense he's particularly popular in life, but he is a useful tool for the Emperor to use to bring down the Atreides. And it's kind of tragic because you can see that the Duke says, "Uh-oh, they're coming for us," right? I mean, that's why he says to Jessica, "Please protect my son." She says, "I will." No, I'm talking about to your sisters. Protect my son. you know.
Yeah.
So you get the sense that they're all conspiring, and this is almost, you know, in a Hamlet-like figure or something, whatever the proper Shakespearean metaphor is. You know, they about to go down. They're about to go down. But I agree, the $350 million or how many $1 million that they spent well. I think the music actually was brilliant in this film, which reminded me of how important music is. And we're going to wish our brother Vince well and all he does. But he brings Vince B here would bring up that point that the music was kind of critical. And if you go back and listen to the score, you literally see where there are times where Villeneuve is saying what the characters are thinking by way of the music, not by way of, you know, background, you know, narration. So.
And it was Hans Zimmer.
Right? Oh yeah, and Hans Zimmer next to John Williams is one of my favorites. I mean, I listen to some of his scores and just listen to some of his scores just to write or think. So he's a very good composer. Yeah. But yeah, I agree. A great science fiction in many respects. Anything else in terms of the sci-fi elements, the sci-fi believability? What do y'all think?
I think the believability was there. You know, looking at the technology, you know, I really found it interesting how during the fighting, they stuck with traditional swords and knives mostly. Then they had the shields, which, you know, pays homage, I'm sure, to the book in the first movie.
It does.
But it wasn't a lot of the traditional shooting, even though they did have that kind of weaponry.
Yep.
So I kind of liked how, you know, they stuck with the knives and then the shields and then the raw fighting, you know, the up close and personal fighting,
Right.
You know, not from a distance, even though we had a little bit of that. So I kind of liked that. So yeah, definitely, you know, believable and, you know, I think well done with the technology. Oh, and then the ships, you know, the ships on Atreides reminded me of the dragonflies. You know, that's what I first thought of when I saw that ship and the wings and the fast movement.
Oh yeah, the ornithopters, yeah.
Yeah.
Plus just the scale of the film, right? You saw these huge, massive ships that were inside of, that flew out of these even more massive ships, right? That the ships that the guild navigators flew, you know, you see those little tiny dots emanating, you know, coming out of the ships. You're like, they must be small. Then you get up, and like, that's the size of the Empire State Building. You know, and you had
No, I was just going to say the last time I saw it, I watched it, which was not that long ago. When they showed, you know, during the fight when the Atreides were attacked, where I believe it was Gurney, he ran outside and he saw the Guild Navigator's ship. To scale, it looked like the size of a moon.
That's right.
Okay, that just showed up, you know, in the atmosphere. It was pretty massive. I think that was the first time I really just kind of got the scale of it.
Right.
But, yeah.
So you got the sense of a galactic epic with this film. All right. Okay, brothers, let's get into the unique critique and the questions around representation. Ulysses, tag, you're it.
Well,
so let's provide the critique that folk haven't provided as of yet in any great length. What do you think about the racial, ethnic, cultural politics of Dune in this film in particular? In this film after Dune?
My unique critique is, you know, concerning Dune being just kind of in a vein of a long line of white savior type movies, or just kind of holding true to that trope. And I'm really just kind of disappointed in just some of the denial around that fact. You know what I mean?
Okay.
And so I looked it up, and I'm just trying to make sure that I'm thinking about it the right way. You know, so I looked up, like, in Wikipedia, like, what is the white savior trope? And the term white savior refers to, according to Wikipedia, a white person who provides help to non-white people in a self-serving manner. And it's sometimes combined with the white savior complex in descriptions of the white savior complex. And then it references The White Man's Burden by Kipling in 1899. So just kind of staying in that lane. It's not so much a white savior coming into taking over a country. Okay, it could be your neighborhood, you know, and it's just the effect of white people on racialized communities. Of color. Sorry, lost my audio. White people coming into racialized communities and taking the tools that they already have available to them and the knowledge that they already have access to, right? Accessing that and kind of being held up as the only ones that really know how to use it right and use it to an effect. And, you know, you may be on the right track, but you can't quite do it for yourself. So we have to come in and just kind of commandeer all that you have built and show you how it's done and show you how to really save you from yourselves.
Right.
You know, and it's an ideology that has been around for centuries. As far as white Europeans and their kind of view on the world and civilizing other cultures and what have you. And it's not so much for me art imitating life, the trope. It is art perpetuating the worst of life, if you will. You know, it's art keeping up with an untrue narrative. All right. So I say all that to say, I found an interview with, pronounce his name for me.
My French ain't that good.
Timothy.
And mine should be better. I have to see his name again. Villeneuve?
Oh, the director. Oh,
yes, the director.
Denis Villeneuve. I probably.
Villeneuve? All right. Well, he did an interview with these guys called Villeneuve. He did an interview with these guys called the Nerds of Color. Okay. Shout out to nerdsofcolor.org. And they asked him the question. They said, you know, there's a storytelling trope called the white savior, where a Caucasian will go into a foreign land and act as a rescuer, a messianic figure, to the indigenous people there. And Herbert's work is being criticized for falling into that trope. So how do you contemporize the story to avoid falling into the problematic areas that the trope potentially presents? And he responds by saying, that's a very important question. And it's why
back up a little. You're outside of your halo.
Oh, sorry about that. So he responds, that's a very important question, and it's why I thought Dune was the way I was reading it, a critique of that trope. It's not a celebration of a savior, it's the condemnation and criticism of that idea of savior. Okay. So that's enough for me.
But to your point, Ulysses, Frank Herbert's original conception of Dune, part of his original conception, some have rightly noted, he was very critical of charismatic figures and saviors and heroes, but he was inspired by, in part, the example of Lawrence of Arabia, T.E. Lawrence and the Lawrence of Arabia story, which of course undergirds the whole, Middle East,
the entire trope,
Islamic, and Edward Said would say Orientalism of this whole film, right? Is that we're talking about folks who, in the Western eye, it's like, that looks like it's Muslim to me, that whole set of stereotypes.
It's all the same,
It's all the same, yeah. And it's not, and I'm not I'm not supporting the stereotype. I'm pointing it out, even though I think Dune does some aspects of it very intelligently, and maybe in ways that are not they're not just bold-faced stereotypes, but what in Western, in American minds, do they think when they see the brown Fremen and the white folk who rule the houses? So, yeah.
And that for me is why it's important that I have this critique of the movie.
Right.
Because I don't believe anyone is served through denying that is there.
Right.
And I'm listening, not listening, but I'm reading his words. And, eloquent though they may be, I don't see where it's honest. Because an honest critique of this kind of white messianic figure, coming in and, saving the Black and brown people, is the fact that nothing really happens to him being that messianic figure. He still ends up being that messianic
even
figure.
more so, right?
So you may be critical of him along the way, but ultimately that is the end goal, and that's where he ends up.
Right.
And everyone is kind of accepting of that. So are you being critical of having the white messianic trope, in a movie, or are you being critical of holding him up to other white messianic figures and saying, but he's the better one?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Sorry about that, but maybe the one thing the writers did try to do here, and again, I completely agree with you about the whole structure probably of the original book, but at least they were showing that the reason that they're in this problem is just not because of them. Like, how did they get in this situation like we're going through now, trying to deny what happened in the past?
Right.
So you heard a few lines here and there, like with the doctor, when she said, there have been hundreds of men like you here, and then trying to explain that the reason they're in this situation is because of the cruelty that's been inflicted on them for many, many hundreds of years. Right. So at least that was able to come through, where I didn't get that at all from the original movie, not at all.
Yeah.
Well, the original movie was
84 movie.
Really homogenous.
Right.
It was really homogenous as far as the racial kind of makeup of the actors in the movie. So you could call it a white savior movie, but it really kind of doesn't fit if everybody's white. You know what I mean?
Whiteness
doesn't work. Doesn't work so well, and there could be a conversation about class or socioeconomic status, the rich and the poor, things of that nature. But it becomes a less racially centered story when like you have this homogenous cast of folks, and I've been hearing this a lot lately. I'm looking at it through the lens of intention and impact.
Right.
Okay. And though his intention may have been to be truthful to this idea that he had through his reading of the story, that this was a critique of the white savior trope, what was presented, the picture that we got, the visuals that we had, was a white savior trope. And that can be true, and it doesn't take away from how spectacular a movie it was, or how visually, stunning the movie was, or how well written and good of a story, right, that it was. All of those things can be true. I just don't think anyone served through denying, what's kind of right in front of us.
You bring up an all too relevant point in this regard, Ulysses, in that, the David Lynch 1984 version, which I'm just going to go on the record, I was not a big fan of. Although I don't know if y'all, if you recall going into that 1984 film, but when you walked into the theater, they literally handed you a glossary of terms. So, and I ain't never walked into a movie where I had to have a glossary of terms to understand the film. But again,
that's cheating.
That was cheating.
You should have to sit through and catch up.
Yeah, you should.
You know what I mean?
I agree.
You shouldn't have to think about it and like, oh, that's what that means. Or every time they say that, they're referring to this. So you should have to be able to make those connections.
Right. And that's why I think Denis did that much more effectively, in that you got the richness and really kind of a broad array of characterizations and characters and storylines from a fairly well, and even though it was two hours and some change, let's be real, a still fairly economical version, partly because he only made half the book. I know, Ulysses, you initially, when you said you saw this, you said, part 1.
Oh,
I know.
I was heartbroken because I avoid spoilers. Okay. And I had no idea that this was the first, and I'm used to long. Give me a 4-hour Lord of the Rings movie or something like that. I'm cool. I'm here for it. Okay. When you start splitting my movies up and with minimal resolution. Okay.
Yeah, that's right. They just made it into the flight of the Christ child into the desert with this one.
Right.
And then they didn't give us a preview of part 2 either. So, I was waiting for that at the end, but the director said he doesn't do that like they do in the Marvel, franchise there. So
you're like, when he gonna become Jesus? Anyway. All right. Now, that's your critique, Ulysses, and I do agree with you and Milton, about that there's some nuance. There's some decent nuance, and I've gone over on some blogs and various other places where folk who are Muslim in their faith felt that. Now, let me be clear. I'm reading what some folk offer, not what a broad array of the consensus of folk in various communities believe. But said, well, I don't think I wasn't offended, or they sort of suggest that, no, I think it was a respectful portrayal, Okay, could be, but again, I agree. The white savior thing still is out there. And then there's also colorism. Colorism, as we talked last episode, is that sense of creating hierarchies according to gradations of skin color. Let me just name the folk of color in the film. Folk of color, or folk we would say of color in the film. And let's just point out that the heroic house is House Atreides, Greek in origin, and that's exactly what's referenced in the book by Herbert, that they are descendants from a Greek family. Okay, European. Okay. So Duncan, let me start. Duke Leto by Oscar Isaac, a Guatemalan actor, but again he's playing Atreides. Duncan, Idaho by Jason Momoa, who is part Hawaiian, in native Hawaiian in terms of his ancestry. Thurfer Howard, who's Stephen McKinney. Thurford, is the mentat. But I'm gonna be flashing pictures of all these actors in the viewer's cut. But as African American, but we might say he's more lighter complected in terms of his skin color, right? Dr. Waylon Yui is played by the Asian American actor Chang Chin. Shade Out Mapes, Agoda, I think it's pronounced Roosevelt or Rochevelle. She's Black and Guyanese British. By the way, she playing Queen Charlotte in
Bridgerton.
Bridgerton. Thank you. Okay. I said I knew that. Oh yeah, she's Queen Charlotte. Okay. Dr. Liet Kynes, Sharon Duncan Brewster, who's Black, British. Jamis, played by Bob's Olasamokar, who's Black and Nigerian. Hera, his wife, she didn't get a lot of screen time, but Gloria Obanyo, who's Black and British, and I think of Nigerian ancestry, if I'm not mistaken. And the Herald of the Change, Benjamin Clementine, who's Black and British. Okay. Now, if you looked at the gradations, the closer you are to the hero, the lighter you are. Something going on there, and that's the choice of the director, not of Frank Herbert alone, right? In fact, Frank Herbert originally in the Dune book said, when one character said to the other, he looks like he's Fremen to me. The individual's response was, that makes no sense, because you can't tell the Fremen by looking at them. That was Herbert's characterization, other than, sun beat and, the fact that, if you ain't got a still suit on, you would bake like a raisin. But, because, that's how hot this planet is. But, so this was a choice by the director to make the Fremen often Black, often brown, with those blue eyes, of course, from the spice melange. And so that's an interesting choice, right? So you to your point, Ulysses, it makes it even more of a white savior drama.
Wait a minute, because I'm really about to bake your noodle.
Bake your noodle, there you go.
Okay.
All right, Oracle.
Quick footnote, right? In order for Paul to prove his bona fides, he had to defeat who?
Oh yeah, the Black man Jamis.
The darkest man on screen.
Yeah.
Okay.
One of the two.
In order to claim his place amongst these people. That's I'm not saying a lot.
Right.
But I'm just saying.
Right. Yeah. And even Stilgar, and I'm forgetting the actor's name, I'll put it in the chat.
Which is interesting also.
Bardem.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but remember how he had the dream about him, which was really odd. He had the dream where the same guy he killed was saying we're best
was
friends,
guiding him,
guiding
him,
mm-hmm. Throughout. And then then you saw this scene where he even saw himself being killed by him.
Right.
So I guess they're bringing in the dreams and
I don't know. It was borderline magical Negro, but okay.
Yeah, that is a concept, right?
I just, quick footnote, for the viewers. These are things that we notice, and I know that we can laugh about and we can honestly critique because we've probably been doing it all our lives. I know I've been doing it all my life. You know what I mean? Just kind of having this kind of honest critique and speaking to these tropes that we see in these movies.
Right.
Because they are so prevalent.
That's right.
They are so, so common.
Right.
And it doesn't interfere with how I enjoy a movie, but it does, cause me to look through a different lens while viewing.
Right.
You know what I mean? You can't help but to know. Once you know, you know. You can't unknow.
Yeah, because they're so prevalent and becoming more prevalent as I'll say Hollywood is trying to be ambiguously diverse, right? It's this sense that, we want to have this grand diversity in terms of the physical attributes, the skin color, and the references to the culture of individuals. But so you're right, like the David Lynch version, 1984 David Lynch version, you could have had all of the Fremen look as white as the Atreides, because that's one choice, but not necessarily. Now, it's interesting to me because in some ways, when you look at the Baron Harkonnen and those actors, they're even more starkly white. I mean, so it's interesting. It's not just the heroes, it's the villains too, right? With the Fremen caught somewhere in the middle.
Who are the villains?
Well, see, the villains are the Emperor.
You got it, Milton. You got it. You heard it.
Emperor we don't see. And you know what? I'm in this Dune blog where they do nothing but, well, they do a lot. But one of the things they do is sort of put up all of these sort of wish list of who they hope plays the emperor.
Okay.
As soon as somebody put up Idris Elba, they like, stop playing. He can't be, he can't be this because of virtue of that, because of virtue of that. Stop playing. I thought the Bene Gesserit could do anything in their breeding program and da-da-da-da-da and da-da-da-da.
Exactly. My gosh.
It really doesn't. They set up a narrative to where at this juncture, they practically painted themselves in a corner.
Right.
Pun intended, but not really. Literally, color-wise, they painted themselves in a particular space to where I don't think the emperor is going to be, not as dark as any of the Fremen.
You know what? It's possible though, because I'm trying to think through with the book. There is no now, spoiler alert. Oh, I'm sorry, I should have said that at the beginning of this thing. So if you go into when you go into the second part, I'm not going to spoil it for you, Ulysses, just in case you want to wait and not read the second part of the book. But there is a blood tie between. No, actually, they say it in this version. There's a blood tie between Jessica, Paul's mother, and the Baron. Or did they say that?
They didn't touch on that in the movie. The current movie, you're saying?
Yes.
They didn't touch on that.
Blood tie?
Okay. I'll take
That's interesting.
That's
interesting.
There is a blood tie. And that actually runs throughout the books. So
because of, God honest, she's one of my favorite characters.
But they always said the Bene Gesserits were always close to each house. So that kind of makes sense. So they did reference that, how the Bene Gesserits are associated with each of the major royal houses. So maybe that was their way of kind of giving us that preview.
Yeah, that's interesting. But when you look at Baron Vladimir Harkonnen, he doesn't seem as though he takes anyone's advice. He doesn't conduct himself as someone who would, like, even when they were there and the Bene Gesserit came to visit, there was no other Bene Gesserit there to kind of greet her. And you know what I mean? So they seem like they kind of keep their own counsel.
Oh, yeah.
And it's kind of seen in the way that they conduct themselves.
Right.
But she was the only person that he gave respect to, I believe. No, the Baron gave respect to very few. But when she came in, she had his pet leave. And, she kind of took over, like,
Yeah, they respect power, though.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, who's going to check her?
That's true.
Oh yeah.
With her power.
And he needed that's why these from the, you didn't get a lot about the Tleilaxu, but the Tleilaxu, who are really sort of the breeders of human. They take human beings and create things out of it. That's the best thing you can say about the Tleilaxu. They're not well respected, but they're needed. They literally have a cloning program where they can bring people, Golas, back to life. Are they responsible
for like the Mentats?
No, the Mentats are now I may be wrong in terms of my Dune lore. I think the Mentats are separate in this respects, in that the Mentats come from what's called the Souk school.
This is like a geek out moment. So
yeah.
This is a total geek out moment.
Yeah. No, so the Mentats are needed by all great houses because there are no computers. Right. So you need these human computers.
The human computers.
Yeah. So you got the Tleilaxu that are not discussed much. You got of course, the Bene Gesserit. You got the Landsrat, which is the Noble House Council. You have the Guild Navigators. I thought their helmets were fun.
I can't wait to really see
what they look like, right? Because they're supposed to be like,
portray them.
Like squid-like human beings that were deformed by so much melange.
But I'm here for a creature. I'm here for a creature feature.
It should be funky. They take them helmets off. But anyway, I said all that to say, sorry, let me get back to my point, that the Emperor could be Idris Elba. Why not? I do not recall, the Emperor does not have any blood ties to any of the main characters that would give it away. He's not related to Leto. He's not related to the Baron Harkonnen. He's not, I know it's Harkonnen, but I say Harkonnen. He's not, so it could be Idris Elba or someone like Idris Elba in terms of beauty and physicality. There's another thing I want to bring up that is not in the film, and it has a relevance to a unique critique we would provide, gentlemen. The Baron Harkonnen is a gay man.
Really? Okay. Interesting.
Now, the way Frank, or let's put it this way, he has homosexual desires.
Well, did we see a female? We didn't see a female of that species of the Harkonnen, did we? I don't think of.
No.
You remember a female? I don't remember.
Yes, I do. I
Really?
do.
I thought there were
Because
some.
I was just watching it a couple of hours ago again.
Okay.
And when, after he was poisoned and he was recovering and he was in that room.
That was
there was
Mueller.
But no,
they don't have hair either. You know what I mean? That's why they're really not as distinctive, but they appear to be kind of androgynous, kind of looking because no facial hair, no hair, period.
You know what? I don't know if that
milky white.
Milky white skin. Well, but see, okay, so let me.
You don't know if that was a Harkonnen or a slave. Is that what you want to say?
I think it was.
Okay.
She was
just a slave. But I thought, you can't be both.
No, they don't enslave their house. They don't slave because
they're people.
They're people. Not in the way in which Herbert constructs these great houses. No, they don't enslave their own. There's too many humans in the universe to enslave your own, and you need them to serve the ends of the house. You need them to send them off and rule things like Raban, his nephew. Fade Rotha, who's another nephew, is not portrayed.
Can't wait to see who plays Fade.
Yeah, they come back to play him. Anyway. But okay, but back to that point. The reason I think that the need moved away from that question, at least in this version, is that the Baron prides upon slave boys. He rapes slave boys. He rapes slave boys. And that's exactly how it's portrayed in the book. There is, in fact, an attempt on the Baron's life where I think a poison is put in a slave boy's thigh and in his buttocks, because that's where the Baron was going to touch.
That's heavy.
Wow. Okay.
And so that didn't make it into this version. I don't know why, but it did.
Maybe part two.
We'll see. Yeah.
But I'm wondering if that was kind of implied in the original version. Now that has me thinking.
It was.
About the original, because there was a young man in there, a slave boy or whatever, that was, I don't know, just extremely nervous.
Mm-hmm.
He was really nervous.
Yep.
But they also had those heart plug things.
Yep. Right.
Which is, something they didn't discuss here. And I don't know if that's true to the book. But
not particularly.
Okay, yeah. He flew over to him and pulled his heart plug.
Right.
And then just kind of smeared the blood all over him.
Right.
And I was wondering if maybe that was their safe space.
Right.
For, instead of having to portray any kind of homosexual acts.
Right.
Right. On screen, or even intimate or insinuate that something like that was going on. They had to find another way to make him horrible. Yeah,
well, I think for the director to do that, he's going to have to give a lot of thought about how to do that in such a way that the LGBTQ community, queer community, we do not feel targeted. We do not feel like we're used as a prop. Because that's going to be real hard. That's going to be real hard to do. Particularly in the current political climate. Good luck.
Good luck.
Good luck. You're right. So anyway, that's I think that was relevant, type of point that we would raise in our discussions.
That's heavy. I had no idea. But,
Mm-hmm.
Does it really make him look even more horrible? Not so much. He's just horrible.
He's
horrible.
Yeah. He's pretty damn
as far as they come.
But then so I wonder where the director may take us, though, because since we don't, each of the other, the Furmans as well as the Atreides, it was very clear male female. But maybe with the Harkonnens, maybe that is kind of a way, because like Ulysses said, I forgot about the healer. And then you're right, there's other more, I guess, androgynous type figures in there.
Right.
And so maybe he will use that to kind of maybe distinguish male and female with the Harkonnens, where it's maybe not as easily, as precise, because none of them have hair, which we usually, would associate with a female. Maybe they don't have traditional figures or breasts. So, maybe it's a way to kind of, give that portrayal to that, to the Harkonnens.
Okay. Yep. Yeah. And there might be some way in which he eases into it by through a way of androgyny, or perceived androgyny. We'll see. Stay tuned for episode 2. The Messiah strikes back. All right. Any final comments, brothers? We went longer than we intended to. Ulysses, get us going.
I know.
Did I?
You started on the white savior.
I'm sorry. Well,
Lawrence of Arabia, right?
I know. But my recap of it was I enjoyed it all in all.
Okay.
And even as we're on this point though of the white savior, I still, if you try to pull some things that are good, and not to discount everything that's, that the problems that we have in it though, but I at least saw the director and the writers attempt to, give more of a reason why they're in the current situation, to be more real about the atrocities committed against them.
Right.
And then to even have a degree of admiration, from the Atreides leader, when he said, I brought my son here, to learn the ways of the desert, the strength of the desert people, the strength, And so I kind of could appreciate those kind of nods here and there, and then when, the team, the advanced team went and he came back and reported, to the Duke that, their fighting skills, I almost lost my life. They had great fighting skills. So
talking about the Fremen, right?
Yeah, the Furman, having great fighting skills. And so I could appreciate a few nods. Again, if I just had to pull, some good things out and not, not in any way omitting the fallacies in it though. But all in all, again, great cinematography, great character development. I am looking forward to part 2. And
yes.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Milton. Ulysses, your final verdict? I don't know. We didn't do any rating this time from 1 to 10. Y'all want to hinder any guesses?
If I had to rate it, I would rate it an 8 because I didn't like the way that it ended, and I'm not a big fan of the to be continued. I'm not.
You don't like the Audi 5000 ending?
I'm not really big on the cliffhangers. Okay, that leave me hanging, and it could be 2-3 years before y'all even drop another movie.
They like, well.
That being said, I give it an 8 because it was excellent in its own way.
Okay.
And I was listening to what you were saying, Milton, and I totally feel and agree with what you're saying. I don't even feel like I have to search for good stuff to pull out of it. Like that, I don't have to look for that. You know what I mean? But just as easily as I notice the good stuff, I notice the bad stuff. And I think about things like cultural appropriation. You know what I mean? How this boy had to come to these people to learn their ways, right, in order to lead them.
No.
Okay, like they were already great. What? Wait.
No. He was already the Messiah when he stepped off the ship.
Right. Yeah, of course. But he didn't want to be. He didn't want to be, oh, no,
He's
not
okay.
me. Oh, well, it's just my destiny. Okay, I'll just step up and be great. Okay, you know what I mean?
All right, since y'all done this to me.
But, that's my, I guess those are my final words on it.
Okay. And so Ulysses an 8. Milton, what are you?
I would say 7.5 to 8. Yeah, I'm right there too. I'm right there as well.
Okay, that's where I am.
The ending, right? It's the ending.
Yeah. Even though the ending was, and they walked into the desert. Okay. All righty. So now we'll wrap it up here. And so we're gonna do a foundation season 1 discussion.
Oh yeah, looking forward to it.
Yeah. Ulysses,
I haven't gotten to the season finale personally yet, but it's getting good. I'm on like episode 7 or 8. So
see, Milton, your face is aglow. Ulysses is cutting his eyes.
Have you finished Foundation, Ulysses?
I beg your pardon?
Have you finished this?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
If I would use any other word, finished would be it.
All right.
Okay. All right. Well,
okay, we got something to talk about. All right.
Done. At the
end.
A
good show. Okay, it's gonna be a good show.
we got some stuff to talk about. All right then. So again, I want to thank my brothers from the Mother Planet, Brother Ulysses, Brother Milton, for once again, we were supposed to do a half hour, we did an hour. Another scintillating, unique critique discussion. We want to encourage our audience to like and to share, whether you catch us on YouTube or on a Facebook Live feed from you. And we will keep you posted as to what's upcoming. We got The Matrix upcoming. We're going to do our season finale, as we said, the Foundation from Apple Plus TV. All right, so thank you very much. And everybody enjoy and have safe holiday seasons here. And
Happy Thanksgiving.
Have Thanksgiving, Merry Christmas, whenever you're watching this. Happy Kwanzaa. Whatever time you're watching. Happy New Year, if that's when you're watching this. Whatever part of the season you're watching it, enjoy. All right, I'll catch you on the Black Hand side. Catch you on the Black Hand side in the future for this unique critique. Peace out.
Peace.